driving along there. A very large raptor darted kind of left and banking behind me. So I could just tell it was something completely different than what I had seen previously. Growing up, I always looked at these are the margins, and this is where you're going to find those things. It kind of made me question, whether I was actually seeing what I was seeing. I spent the rest of that winter looking, driving even more than I normally did through here. Didn't see it the rest of that winter and into the next early spring, and continued into 11 and 12. I was called into work and was driving by Arcola Cemetery, and I saw a bird sitting on the pole. You get really accustomed to what the red-tailed hawks look like, rough-legged hawks. It was more that, nice heavy shoulder and triangle look of a falcon. Sure enough, it was a prairie falcon, and took some pictures of it. And then contacted a close friend of mine, Ron Bradley, here in Charleston, and he and I kind of started driving around. Even though he sticks to a roughly about an 8 square mile area in their winter range, they can be so difficult to find because they spend a majority of their time on the ground and not on a pole or a tree or anything like that. So about mid-December, it was located again, and then another friend of ours, David Mott, joined in, and we started seeing it a little more regularly, and just kind of one of those love at first sight types of things, I guess. I really always have enjoyed raptors, and that was such a unique thing that it just drew me in immediately.
Prairie falcon's a western species of the falcon, and wouldn't typically occur this far to the east. So to have it out of its range, so to speak, is pretty unique. We just crossed Route 130 and gone just about a mile west or so when we encountered a very fast-flying bird. We knew it was a raptor of some sort. And I had just seen my first prairie falcon in Champaign County just the February before this occurred in December of 2012. And I recognized the color of the bird. It seemed similar to what I had seen in the prairie falcon, but that was going through the back of my mind.
There were certainly times where we had better success rate than others, and that would be either in the earlier morning or in the evening. Once they kind of get out and they're out hunting for the day, it just seems like midday it can be just almost impossible to find them. Even though you know they're here, it's just locating is so difficult. I've sat where those vehicles where we're parked today many evenings, until the sun went down and it got too dark to look anymore.
It's just such a cool bird. It's as fast as light. It's so fast. And just observe it and watch it and see the things that it can do.
For the first few years, I think it was an obsession. We were bound and determined to find the prairie falcon.
And that really wasn't very long after somebody was like, "There's two." I just couldn't believe it. I mean, it's odd enough that there's one, and when he said there's two of them, it did serve to escalate things.
We just kind of set up coordinates and we would contact each other by phone. If we had a sighting, of course, we'd all rush to see the bird.
There was another one that Tyler did. One time he was looking out in the field and he says, there's 2 merlins at 20 teddies. I'm going, what's a teddy? I had no clue what a teddy was. But he was texting, and I didn't know about how cell phones correct themselves. And I'm looking at my flip phone. I'm going, what is a teddy? I don't know what he's talking about. So from then on, when we talk to each other, we'll use the word teddies instead of yards.
Ron and Dave and I we're all, just like everybody else. You got a little goofy side and you like to have fun. And so it just seemed as that, particularly in 2012, it just evolved. And like Dave Mott was describing, you send a text and you intend to say one thing and something different comes out and it just becomes part of your lingo. You have a Merlin at 15 teddies. It's amazing, instead of 15 yards away or something like that. It just became silly. It wasn't a coordinated thing, it was just a fun thing. This would easily be a stump that a farmer might remove. It's been out here forever. He knows the falcon's out here. He's left it alone. So it has opened a lot of doors of connection with people.
I don't recall who found it on the stump first. We were noticing that it was spending time in that area. And once one of us did spot it on the stump, that became our focal point.
It seemed like everything emanated around that stump. Like if you go a mile or two around it, that seemed to be like the epicenter. And I don't know why, I can't explain it.
I saw the farmer out here tilling his field and asked if he would mind if I put a trail camera up, and he was very gracious to allow that. There's something weird about this square mile. The volume and the diversity of the raptors in such a concentrated area, it's just like, why this spot, is so unique. I think I just wanted to be able to learn more and see more without being intrusive, and this just seemed like a natural fit, and that's kind of where that came from. It became so much more, it was kind of like, coughing up a pellet or sleeping. Just to see him that relaxed and catching some sun and getting some shut-eye, some interspecific interactions and intraspecific, with both the falcons with each other, and then the harriers and the rough legs interacting with the falcons was really cool. The whole pre-flight checklist thing, I think, is one of those things that kind of sustains me through the project a little bit, because it's so predictable. He'll sit there for sometimes for 2 or 3 hours if it's just the right conditions, getting some sleep. Maybe he does a little bit of subtle preening, but as soon as you see him, you get that wing, and he'll stretch it all the way back past his tail feathers, and that same leg will just go right with it, and he'll do both sides, and he'll bring them both back up together. He'll poop, and then he'll go. It was just kind of like one of those things where he's making sure everything's working correctly and all that stuff, and he's ready to go for the day. Primarily the 2 falcons, and then I didn't capture it here, and very infrequently would a rough-legged hawk even bother with the prairie falcon. For whatever reason, they just weren't concerned with each other. Nor was necessarily the prairie falcon concerned with the harrier, but the harriers seemed to have a problem with everybody.
I have seen the harriers go after the prairie falcons a number of times. Just buzz them, and the prairie falcons will just rear back and present their talons to the birds. Rarely have I seen them fly away from them. One unique experience was as one of the harriers was harassing the prairie falcon on the ground, a pair of merlins joined they came to the prairie falcon's rescue, so to speak. And they basically attacked the harrier and just pursued the bird relentlessly until it finally moved out of the area.
2 merlins went in and cleared them out in probably 15 minutes, diving at them. And it was a tremendous thing to watch. The merlins would go in and come in and just do a sharp dive real quick, and the harriers would turn up on their backs with their talons, and in about 15 minutes they drove all of them out of that patch.
This was just, I can't explain it really too well in words, but the anticipation of them arriving and kind of going through that last week of October and the first part of November to see if they'd return. It seemed like every one of those years on that first encounter, I'd have a situation where I would either drive up on the bird, or it would be flying, and it would literally fly over my car and me and allow me to take some pictures and maybe circle around, bank around, and hover by, and then take off and then go away, and it was almost like, hey, it's good to see you, I'm back, especially as you move through the years.
On occasion, you'll see one of the 2, one either off the stump or on the ground, get up and just fly over and just kind of make a pass. It's like just to say, I'm glad you found your way back. Good to see you. Been another successful journey.
It's just something, if you like to go birding, just to see just the changing of the seasons and the migration patterns and all this stuff. It's the way you go through life is with the migration patterns of birds, and just seeing different birds at different times of the year is just interesting and fun. And you never know quite, You may have one day where you see something you've never seen before, and that's always very exciting.
Especially when there's opportunity to find not only the prairie falcon, but a gyr falcon or a peregrine falcon as well. Who wouldn't jump at a chance if you only lived about 10 or 12 miles from here?
It was fun, you know, it just really was fun, and I think brought us closer together, really, that whole thing. I became very familiar and just had a lot of fun through that time, and it's really kind of held us together as pretty close friends from then on. From a birding perspective, this has been a real lifetime event for sure for me. There's been a lot of people that have connected to me from around the state, and even sometimes when I've been other places in Texas or whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, I've heard of that, you know, and that's just kind of neat to me that people get inspired and give them some ideas and maybe kind of get them thinking about how they maybe interact with their own little patch, you know, and what's there.